Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lipedema Patient Roundtable. It is always a highlight of every month. Lympha Press sponsors this as a show of support to the community to show that they care about patients and understanding it's not just about pumps, it's about your whole life and feeling supported. And we've always got a great group of people to bring you that support. Plus, all of our chatters, please let us know you are here and that you are with us. I am coming to you live from St. Louis, as is the Lippy Butterfly. Angelique, we're going to meet in the lobby after the show tonight. If any of you want to meet us here at the Marriott, we are in the state of Missouri for the FDRS conference. And we're going to do some previews of that. But of course, we've also got our watch party panelists tonight, which is Jenny Bogine and Patty Cornude. Patty or Jenny or both, let us know just a little snippet right now. What's this watch party all about?
Well, Jenny and I were not able to go to St. Louis, so we've been dying to meet each other. She lives in Massachusetts and I live in New York. So we said, let's pick a spot right in between. Let's get a hotel together and watch the conference together. And if there's anybody else local to us, they'll join us and meet us there too.
Yep.
I love that. And so you will be amazing chatters, like our amazing chatters that are logging in right now. We've got Angela Gray, Lori Paquette, Gina Neff, Sue Kaminsky. Everybody, we're so happy that you're here with us. And not everybody is necessarily connected or logging on tonight because of the FDRS conference, and we respect that. So we're not going to be talking about that entirely. We're so happy to have back with us Susie Beauchamp. How are you, Susie?
I'm doing great. It's so good. I missed you guys last month. And I'm sorry I'm not going to be at FDRS to hug you guys in person, but I love you guys.
Yeah, we're going to do all the love right now virtually like we do every month. And we did miss you tremendously. In the last few months, we've been missing our beloved Anne Kahn. We send our condolences on the loss of your beautiful mom. And we're so honored that you're back with us. Linda Ann, we are excited to hear a preview of your talk at FDRS later in the conversation, but welcome back to the roundtable. And our special guest this month, we are so honored. She's got over 19,000 followers on Instagram. She is a patient who has turned her pain into purpose. Kaz Windsor, you know her at Kaz Talks. She is helping people. And we're going to learn about how she's helping people. Coming to us live from the UK, 1 a.m. it is there?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yes, it is. Well, we're so glad, and you're bright and shiny, and you bring so much light to the community, and we're so honored to have you. She is with Sculpt and Change Therapies, a lymphedema reflexologist and fascia therapist, and so much more. You know, before we get into it, maybe some in our audience aren't familiar, although I can't imagine. Don't know you, Kaz. Kaz, what do you talk about? What's your story?
Okay, very basic. My story is that I was diagnosed with lipedema in 2015. I was diagnosed with lymphedema in 2005. The lymphedema was covering the lipedema. And once the lymphedema got under control, I was diagnosed with lipedema, and then I was diagnosed with seven other illnesses. But I think the big thing about my story is that and what makes me different from everybody else is that I was going for surgery through the CCG funding here in the UK, and at the last minute it was pulled on me for cosmetic reasons, and so I had to find a new pathway. I had to find something that worked for me, but in finding something that worked for me, I've been able to help a lot of other people.
I think that's so beautifully said. And one of the things we always say here at the round table is there's not one answer for everyone. There's not one universal answer because our bodies are all different. Our genetics are different. Our ways of coping with chronic illness are different. but we always love to hear the different modalities. And if there's something that speaks to our audience, wonderful. And you have been able to sculpt and change your life. And so congratulations for that. And when did you make the decision to start putting it out there for other people to, because every one of you, and in chat as well, you make yourselves vulnerable and you show up and you expose your journey. And I honor that. So what made you decide to do that?
I had to hit rock bottom. I had to fall really, really hard. And then I had to bounce back up. And in doing so, it made me realize that I'm not just the only person that this is happening to. And could I help someone else? And it was helping one person at a time. And now it's helping hundreds of people at a time. And you give your life to your public service. And it's a big ask, because I was actually talking to somebody this evening who actually said to me, and I said to them, I have more support online from strangers than I do from family and friends for putting myself out in the public, because they don't understand why I'm doing it and why I'm putting my life on a public platform for others to judge and criticize. And you have to have a strong backbone for that. You have to have strength. And it's taken me a long time to find that strength. But in finding that strength, my strength helps everybody else.
Everybody in chat is saying, well said. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And, you know, we're going to talk about a lot of different things tonight. Whenever somebody wants to jump in, you know the rules, just feel free to jump in. And don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A, because we do have experts here that can answer, both patients and medical professionals. And speaking of which, Linda Ann, why don't you tell us a little tidbit of what your session is about here at the FDRS conference?
But I just want to say something about Kaz before I talk. I send people to your page. I did this morning. I had a new patient, and I send them to you, and I tell them the transformation and how amazing you are. So thank you. You don't even know how many people you're helping. So thank you so much.
Well, you don't know how much I absolutely adore you. Like, literally adore you. You're one of the superheroes. You're somebody who I can't wait to meet one day.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I'm very humble. Thank you so much. I'm just me, and I just love what I do. And I'm also like you, I'm very, very dedicated to help patients. And one of the doctors, I was on a panel just the other day, and he was joking because he said, Linda Ann once told me that she reads research studies in bed. And just the night before, I've been reading 3 research studies or so. But anyway,
that's what I do. That's what I do. I literally, it's so bad. I'm a geek. I sit and come home from work and read studies. Like, why? I just sit there, and then it gets to like 11, 12 o'clock at night, and you're like, oh, I should go to sleep now. But you can't switch off because you're so taken with all the new news.
That's correct. That's absolutely. My husband says, what are you doing till 2 o'clock in the morning? I'm going to be talking about the fascia, and most of you know, and some of you also have been fascinated with the fascia. And I just believe that the root of so many things is in the fascia. And so we have a superficial fascia, which is just below the surface of the skin. And I was in a laboratory last year where we actually did dissection, and we actually saw the fascia and the skin. It's so small, it's so thin that it's amazing that it does so much. And the superficial fascia, they used to think was just nothing, but it turns out, and there's research study about this too, that there are so many nerve endings in the superficial fascia. And so we call that the SAT, the subcutaneous adipose tissue. And then we have the DAT, which is the deep adipose tissue. And the deep fascia is there, also very, very highly innervated with nerves. And then in between the deep fascia and the muscle, there is hyaluronan, which we used to call hyaluronic acid. And it's there to have the glide and the slip. And there are so many nerve endings. And so it's so, and my whole thing in this talk is looking at pain and where is the pain and how do we source it and what is happening with lipedema and with Derkums. But we need to stretch. And I do Pilates, and that stretching, I keep on telling my Pilates teacher, I know what people do who don't do this, but you're gliding and stretching the fascia and keeping that hyaluronan moving. And you need to also be very hydrated to keep that moving. So that's just a little bit, I won't take up too much, but I'm very excited to present this. But 15 minutes, I just made it shorter.
I mean, 15 minutes. I have a hard time just saying hello in 15 minutes. So, and last year, I remember, Linda Ann, you didn't even say or once. It was just brilliance, boom. And I can't wait to hear you. Dr. Nick Pennings, who was with us last month, is also one of the speakers. I am so glad that Kara Cruz was finally able to join us. She was having some connectivity issues, and we love you, PGP. We're so glad that you're here, and she will be at FDRS soon. She's going to be journeying. We do have some questions that have come in from the audience, and we want to get to them, but I also want to acknowledge, Angelique, what it took for you to even get here. And I want to, I'm doing a talk on resilience, and I think everyone who shows up, anyone who logs on, anyone who's even in here in chat tonight, you are resilient people. All the times you thought, stick a fork in me, I'm done. And no, here you are, still standing better than you ever did, just like Elton John sang. And it was kind of hard to get here. Angelique, would you share a little bit about your thoughts on travel?
My body is screaming, from one lippy lady to a lippy community of body screamers. My body is screaming. What I wanted to say though to my lippy friends, I know that a lot of times the idea of facing this body pain stops us dead in our tracks. And the thought of going through TSA, the thought of having to deal with 2 seats or whatever it takes, it stops us in our tracks. It makes us not want to do the things. But we cannot let this disease get us to stop us from doing all of the things. I'm heartbroken every time I talk to a lady who wants to come to FDRS and something is stopping her from traveling. I just truly believe that there has to be a way. And I know that for so many of us, it feels impossible, but I want you to be encouraged to try and continue to try, to continue to come up with new solutions and to look for more answers. One thing that one of our audience members, Sandy Darley, pointed out to me over the past couple of weeks was that there's a program called TSA Cares. And I didn't use this program coming out because I'm really familiar with the Phoenix airport. It didn't make sense for me to use it, but I will be using it on my way going back out of St. Louis because I'm not familiar with this airport. And TSA Cares says call them 72 hours in advance of your travel and let them know what your conditions are, what your limitations are, and they will help you, whether that is having a supervisor there with you to walk through the processes. So you can tell them, I have bulges in my thighs. I'm sensitive to being touched there. I can't stand for longer than a certain amount of time, or maybe you need to travel with more liquids than are normally allowed. Talk to them about what these issues are and give them the opportunity to help you through it. What I did do was, and I do this kind of religiously now, is when I get there, I ask the supervisor or whoever is looking in my direction what their requirements are. So they'll tell me, you have to go through the body scanner today, and I'll try it. Or the guy today said, we're not going to send you through the scanner. You're just going to stay in your wheelchair. Thank you. But if you communicate with them and give them an opportunity to communicate back with you, it can make your experience through TSA a lot less harassment. Less harassment. Because you guys know, I've had the experience of actually having a harassing TSA agent claiming that my big thighs were bombs and calling a whole mayday in over the radio. So I've been through the bad things. My encouragement to you guys is to try again. Don't give up, and take your tools. Bring your tools with you. You know, we can't travel without our tools. We might not be able to take the whole big machines with us. Take the small machine if that's all you can travel with. Do whatever is necessary to still live your life. Don't let this disease stop you. That's all.
That was so beautifully stated and from your heart, and we all felt that, and we want to acknowledge what it took for you to get here. And I can't wait to hug you in the lobby afterward. I'm going to hug you on behalf of everybody who isn't here. And for those of you who aren't, we don't want anybody to feel bad about wherever they're at in life. Where you are is fine. What you're doing is fine. Go ahead, Kaz.
So I was just gonna answer that. So TSA in America. So here in England, we have a lanyard, and if you turn up to the airport with a lanyard on, and you don't have to necessarily say what's your problem, what your illness is, but immediately with a lanyard on, you will have several different agents come up to you and say, do you need assistance with something? Do you need to be taken to the lounge? Do you need assistance with do you need assistance with your passport? Do you need assistance going through? Do you need assistance with your case? And the difference is, and I think this is what needs to be said, is someone like me and someone like Angelique, we're both the same because we've both got lipedema, right? But I've got hypermobility, and hypermobility renders me with a disability at times where I can't do certain things. So I have to ask for assistance, and I have to ask. And so it's all of us have to be in the same circle, in the same group, and be able to have the same experiences and ask for the same help.
Asking for help is so important, and also
100%.
not judging by appearances. I remember after I was in a car accident and I could hardly walk, and I was asking for assistance, and people were side-eyeing me like, you're fine, you don't need help. And you just don't know. So no judgment. This is a no judgment zone, the roundtable. And let me get to some of these questions real quick too, because we have a lot of new people. Can we just send some love to all the new people that are logging on tonight? We appreciate you. The roundtable happens every month. This roundtable is the third Wednesday of every month, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We came to you from Missouri, 7 p.m. and Kaz, 1 a.m. There was a question about what's the difference between the roundtables and the webinars that Lympha Press has. Great question, Susan McCoy. The patient roundtables are simply that, for patients, where we can talk candidly, where you have a platform to talk with other patients who are managing their conditions in effective ways or going through the same trials you're going through. The bottom line is the roundtables are so you don't feel alone. We have them, Lympha Press has them for lymphedema, second Tuesday of every month, for lipedema, the third Wednesday of every month. So those are the roundtables. And then usually once a month, usually it's the third Thursday of every month, we have a clinical webinar where an expert will present. Linda Ann has presented for us. We've had Dr. Herbst present. It's usually a PowerPoint on a clinical topic, cutting edge information about what affects the patients that Lympha Press serves, which are generally lymphedema and lipedema patients. So I hope that helps answer your questions, and you can go to the link tree for Lympha Press and sign up for it all. Because if you're not at the live, you will get a copy of the replay, or it will be posted on our YouTube channel, and it will also be on our website too. So we're here to support you. One thing I love about Lympha Press is that it's not just about taking care of you with a pump that, yes, you can travel with, but also supporting you in your journey as you try to manage your condition and live a successful and happy, full life. That's the whole point. So that question has been answered. Now let's talk about eccentrics. Sandy Darley, hi Sandy, wants to know about eccentrics, movement focused on just moving the fascia. Any thoughts about this? Linda Ann, I'm going to lean on you, but anybody else? And Patty Cornute has become somewhat of an expert on the fascia as well. So, and of course, Kaz. So come on in and everybody answer how you see fit about eccentrics, movement focused on just moving the fascia.
Heather, you've been doing that class with Robert Schlepp, haven't you, with movement?
I did fascial fitness with Robert, and then I did fascial manipulation with Sue Hitzman, and both were just phenomenal courses. But I'm not quite understanding. She's talking about not engaging your muscles and just moving your fascia.
And the term is eccentrics. I am not familiar with the term eccentrics. So, you know, and we can, Kaz, do you have any knowledge of this, or should we just say, we'll get back to you?
Well, she's saying basically you're not moving the muscles, but you're just moving the fascia. And if you were just moving the fascia, then you would be doing it necessarily under manipulation, either through massage or through fascia therapy itself, using some of the tools that I use in the clinic.
Is this kind of like the quadrivis therapy that they were teaching in Europe before?
So quadrivis is more massage. Quadrivis is more massage, deep tissue massage. I've had some clients who have gone to that and then come to me. But the fascia being moved on its own, you would be moving it either manipulation through massage, through fascia therapy, where you're moving and lifting the fascia, or through using some sort of tool. So like the instrument assisted tissue therapy, you would be using the tools to move the fascia, but you're not actually engaging on the muscles. You're only working through the tissue.
And that could be with cupping and many other things like that as well. And maybe even stretching, right? And I did attend the quadrivis training that we had here in the States at the time. It was, the lady came from Holland, and it's long, sweeping, deep strokes, really, really deep. We were all going to get trained, but then she wanted us to spend 3 months training in a row. So we didn't do it.
No.
Gotcha. And she follows up with Miranda White Esseman. It's an exercise regimen that addresses fascial movement. So I know we're going to be learning even more about this. Go ahead, Jen. What did you want to say?
I just looked it up on Dr. Google. And it's a particular kind of a fitness class, you know, like there's Pilates out there. This is another movement that's out there that it looks like it deals towards global fitness and making the best at all, no matter what your stage. But yeah, it focuses on stretching and strength building. It looks like that's just, and that's just a cursory look, but that's what it says on that. It looks interesting. You know.
Yeah. For the training that we did, it was really focused on elongation and, you know, making sure it's, you know, twisting. It's really moving the length of the fascia. You're basically trying to, you know, wring out a sponge. You know, you're just trying to elongate your body. And then there's movements that allow you to have like a, almost like a gentle bounce. You don't even need like a rebounder. You can do it standing, and that kind of gets into somatics and other types of training as well.
And then with the Pilates, we're doing a lot of that stretching. And then there's also gyrotonics for people who can't manage with the Pilates. The gyrotonics is easier for people who don't have as much strength.
Excellent point. I want to speak to Amanda Verbeck because her question touched my heart deeply, and I know will touch all of your hearts. She says she was diagnosed with lipedema a week ago. She's done a lot of crying, some of it out of relief for finally having a name for this pain. She is currently looking for a physical therapist. What are your suggestions, panel, in looking for a physical therapist or an occupational therapist? So many of the therapists she is finding specialize in cancer or lymphedema. Is that still okay for lipedema?
certified lymphedema therapists are some of the best therapists you can find.
Yep. Yeah. And
Jenny.
my diagnosis actually came after a bout of cellulitis where it was prescribed that I go for some CLT therapy. And when I walked in the door, and this is the therapist actually specialized mostly in breast cancer patients, but the minute I walked in the door, she said, "Has anybody ever told you you have lipedema?" And my journey started there. But you know, the same treatments that they do for people for lymphedema is the same starting treatment sometimes, particularly for later stages on lipedema. And what I've learned is there aren't a lot of CLTs out there. And the best place I learned to find them were from hospital outpatient therapy clinics, because they're getting people who've come from the hospital. But it really depends on where you are in the country. And it can be a physical therapist. It can be an occupational therapist that has the certification. And you can also look on the websites for the different studies that
Vader.
do certify VOTR. There are 3 or 4 of them out. One begins with an L.
Lana.
Yeah. So if you go
LANA,
to the,
Lana, the Norton School,
Yeah.
look for that CLT after the name. That's an excellent point, Patty.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kaz. I keep wanting to call you Kaz. It's Kaz, forgive me.
It is Kaz. So everything that you guys have just said is what we don't have here. So you've got all these certifications, and this is not what the UK's got. We don't have these clinics and places that people can go. And very recently, over the last year, the lymphedema clinics have turned away lipedema, saying that lipedema doesn't need to have compression, it doesn't need to have certain things, and only lymphedema will be looked after. The NICE guidelines kicked in last year and again in February of this year, and that means that on the NHS we've got no standing at all for lipedema or any kind of surgical procedures at all. You can obviously go privately. I think there's 2 private consultants in the UK. There's not a lot of resource here, and when I look in America, it seems like there is a hell of a lot of resource, because, and the other thing is as well, you've all got lymphedema specialists or lymphedema nurses, whereas here there's not a lot of that. I'm a patient under St George's, and at St George's you do have lymphedema specialists, but they're far and few between, and they're seeing X amount of patients every single day, and it's very, very difficult to get into for an appointment, and it's usually over a 6-month window, so you'd go every 6 months. I'm not a lymphedema specialist, but I'm a lymphedema and lipedema sufferer who has created her own clinic off the back of my illnesses so that I can help people, because I could see that there's just nothing around, which is why I've had so many people fly from different countries or fly from different areas of the UK, or even drive 4 or 5 hours just to come in for a treatment, for a consultation, to be able to be understood, because there's nothing, there's very little here.
Wow.
But when I listen to you guys, it seems like there's a lot of resource. The difference is we've got an NHS system for compression, whereas you guys have got an insurance. So I think that that's the difference.
I feel for you, and I thank you for bringing up that important point. I think sometimes we think everybody's like us or has the same situations that we have, and it's all very different. Go ahead, Patty. You wanted to say something. And by the way, PGP, thank you for putting that link in the chat. That's wonderful. I want to get to you in a minute about travel talk as well. But Patty, you wanted to say something.
I know that the Lipedema Foundation is putting together a directory right now, and they recently just shared links that you can give to therapists who can fill out a form to be included on the directory. They're going to be talking about that at FDRS.
And
yes.
They also have a practitioner guide now that can be given to the doctors in addition to the standard of care. And I want to just repeat, it's really important to get a CLT LANA certified, because there are people doing lymphatic drainage and they're not properly trained. So you want a CLT. And then the LANA, which Cara's put in the chat is wonderful. That's the Lymphology Association of North America. I'm LANA certified, and that is a really high credential. It's a good place to look as well. And having said that, many of the clinics do work with cancer treatments and not enough with lipedema, but it's changing. There's more of an awareness. I'm finding more of the therapists here in town now are understanding. But when you work with someone, it would be optimum to work with a CLT who really does understand lipedema.
Thank you for making that distinction. That's really important. We had another question about travel. I want to note that last month, Lympha Press did an entire webinar on best practices for traveling when you have lymphedema and lipedema. It lives on our website. Feel free to check that out. But a question that I know you have an answer for, Kara, from Renee Carmack. Speaking of travel, do you recommend getting TSA Precheck? Do you buy an extra seat on a flight? And I know, Angelique, you want to speak to this as well. This is good information. Kara, you are a seasoned traveler. What do you do?
So I only fly Southwest because they have a customer size policy where they will provide an extra seat if you need it. I have never paid for one ahead of time because I have never had the means to pay for one ahead of time, especially because all of my last 7 flights were out for surgery. So my money was gone into surgery. So what I did is I just made sure that I went to the airport even earlier than I normally would obsessively go, and go up to the counter at Southwest. And sometimes I have to say I want to use the customer size policy. A couple other times I've walked up, they're like, I got you, because they know what you're coming up for. And they ask for your ID. They ask you a couple questions. It's nothing too invasive. Like, they never check weight or measurements or anything like that. They reprint your ticket with like your little reserve sign that you put on the seat next to you. And it gives you 2 seats free of charge. And then it also allows a pre-board, so you get to go on early. I had wheelchair assist the last several times I flew because of surgery and wanting it on the way back. So I just did it the whole trip to make sure that it was like noted that I really needed it. And what I would just do is when I got pushed to the gate, I would then tell the gate agent, I can walk like the little gate bridge myself. And then I typically got to be the very first one on the plane because she would be busy pushing like the elderly people down the little ramp. So I would go in and I would pick 2nd row window seat. It's the best spot because 1st row and 3rd row on some Southwest planes have a airbag in their seatbelt, and you can't use an extender for it. And so if you need the extra seat and need the extender, you can't sit in the 1st and 3rd row. And I never wanted to get situated and then find out I couldn't. So I just started picking row number 2. And I picked the window, marked the middle seat as like my reserved, because I don't get up during a flight. I don't want to try to climb past people. I didn't want to try to get these hips up and down the aisle of a seat, like the plane. So I just go in and plant myself against the window, mark the middle seat as taken, and then have like the end seat open for if they need somebody to sit there. There's been times where nobody's joined me and I had the whole row to myself. There's been a couple times where the one flight I had like a larger like football kind of player guy, and he was like, I love when I see somebody with a reserve sign because then I get extra room too. And he had like a really good take on it where other people get angry about it. But I've had friends that have also purchased the ticket ahead of time. And what you just do is you'll still go to the counter, tell them you're using it. And then at the end of your trip, you reach out to Southwest and they'll refund you the cost of one of the tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're afraid of not having the 2nd seat and have the means to purchase it ahead of time to make sure you can get to your destination, that's always an option because they will refund you. My friend has never had an issue with it being refunded. I've never had an issue in 8 flights with there not being a seat. Mm-hmm. So whatever gamble you want to take.
That's great. Well said. I want to go to Jenny and then Patty and then Angelique if you have anything to add to this. So Jenny, go for it.
So before I was diagnosed, which was just 4 years ago, I had kind of stopped traveling because of walking through the airports with these heavy legs. It was it was difficult. And when I'd get to my destination, it would take days to recuperate. And by then I'd be turning around and coming home. Well, about 3 years ago, I flew and I got wheelchair assist. Wow. You know, right from when you arrive at the airport, they get you, just as Kara was mentioning, all the way down to the gate. They get you through TSA. They push you to the head of the line, which is awesome. You know, and it was fantabulous and made such a huge difference to traveling again. And then there are some really great Facebook pages out there for plus size travelers, which is just awesome. And I learned from them, when you step on the plane, ask the attendant right then and there as you're going down the aisle, can I have an extender? And then they either give it to you or bring it to you discreetly. It's easy peasy, not embarrassing to do. But the other thing I learned is the aisle seat has a button underneath it that you can raise the arm so you can get in and out of the chairs. And a really cool flight attendant was telling me about that. So, you know, would be my tips, I guess, on that. So
excellent. Thank you so much, Jenny.
It's a good thing now.
That's so great. I love it. And Patty, what were you going to add?
If you're traveling with somebody and you're using the Southwest customer of size, they can board with you early. You board right on up front with people.
Got it. And PGP?
One last thing I forgot. As soon as I step into the plane, the flight attendant that's like right there, I tell them from the start I need an extender. And they typically get it for me even like before anybody else is on the plane. So like if you're embarrassed about asking, I mean, by like flight number 6, I didn't care who knew, but like in case it is something you're sensitive about, like they're very discreet about it. They're very good, but I typically just ask them like right as I'm walking in, like, hey, I'm going to need an extender. And a lot of times they can grab it for you right before you even walk past them.
Thank you.
A lot of times they have them out now too.
True. Okay. And Angelique, a final word on this travel subject?
Everybody touched on a lot of my travel tips. You know, I'm definitely a big fan of Southwest. And especially because of their customer of size policy. What I do for mine, you know, because I take several trips throughout the year, I kind of just roll my other ticket into my next ticket. So I call them at the last minute and get it refunded back to my card. So it'll be there for my next ticket because it's there for like a whole year. Your like refund is there for like a whole year. So I just kind of like I roll it over to like my next ticket to save myself the hassle. And it really is a matter of saving myself the hassle. One thing that I notice about them is when you do go ahead and you book the extra ticket, they see you coming. They know who you are. They've already been alerted in their system that there's a person of size who is coming. So the guy who checked me in at the gate, at the curb rather, he ended up walking us, the Southwest guy ended up walking us up to TSA because he noticed that nobody was helping us in the wheelchair assist area. I'm in Phoenix, it's snowbird season leaving. So it was full of wheelchairs today and it took forever. The guy from Southwest came in, he was like, oh no, come on, let's go, let's get through TSA and stuff. And that's happened to me more times than not, that the Southwest person will help me through TSA. Not only that, but then as soon as I got to the gate, the lady said, are you Angelique? I said, yes, ma'am. So they already knew I was coming and they already were prepared for me. I didn't have to really even ask to board first. They just went ahead and went through everything, you know, and I like that because I am the type that like, once a little hiccup happens, I'm in full anxiety. So the least anxiety inducing things that I can do, I'm like, hey, let's do them. If you know that I'm coming and you can make this swift for me and you can help me get through processes, let's go for it. And then I'll just save that money for my next trip.
Totally. Excellent advice. Now, I want to go to a question that Debrina McEwen put in there, but I also want to say, Susie, we have been missing you and we are so glad you're here. I want to put this question out for the panel to think about while I ask you next, what's been going on in your life and what words of wisdom do you want to impart to the group? But the question is, are there tools that we should avoid when it comes to fascia manipulation? And so Kaz, be thinking about that. And should people be doing it on their own without the help of an expert? And while you think about that, Susie, tell all.
I mean, I'm going through so much right now. It's pretty intense, to be honest, but it's okay. It's all good stuff. I have reprioritized everything in my life. We're selling our house, we're simplifying, we're downsizing. I'm spending a lot of time with family and on my self-care journey, and I've really purged the hell out of my social media and my connections. And if you don't add value or make me feel better when I've spent time with you, I'm not investing time with you. And it's been amazing for my mental health, and to be perfectly honest with you. And then I've been spending a lot of time with my mom, who's having some health challenges right now as well. So it's been an interesting thing. But I did want to say, when you travel, because I was traveling so much, and I have, you know, lipedema, lymphedema, and also the Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobile. Anyway, with all of those things, I learned that some things that you can do also, for those of you that are traveling this weekend, don't forget to pack a bathing suit. You're going to be surrounded, if this is your first time at FDRS, you're going to be surrounded by women who look like you, and it'll be the most joyful experience of your life, first of all. Secondly, and you don't have to feel uncomfortable about being in a swimsuit at all. In fact, you should absolutely just celebrate the hell out of your amazing body shapes. That, and then also, if you can't get into a pool for some reason, Dr. Herbst brought it up last year and was so brilliant. She was like, make sure that you try to get a room with a tub, because remember, even 1.5 feet of water, which is what you would have in a bathtub, can be enough compression to help alleviate the swell hell that you might experience from travel. And I also don't eat sugar, and I don't eat grains when I travel. And I found that that keeps my swelling way down, even though there's a temptation to do it, you guys, because you're traveling. I get it. So anyway, that's my, you know. Boop.
Excellent tips. And thank you for the advice about editing your friends list and putting up boundaries. Because, you know, Kaz, I was noticing in some of your recent posts, you were talking about, you know, giving yourself a break. There are external factors. There's not just the medical condition that you're dealing with, but there are external stressors that impact how your body is feeling as well. So being a guardian of all of that is really important. And then the question about fascia tools that we should avoid. So Kaz, the floor is yours.
There's going to be contradictions here, because a lot of people like certain tools and a lot of people don't. My advice to anybody is research. Read the books, research. If you want to do things for yourself, research. I cannot stress enough, don't use these tools heavily on your body. Make sure that you use them lightly and that they are brisk and within their movements, which is why I try and put the kind of content out that I do. I go to conferences, I go to meetings all the time, I meet women all the time, and they come up to me and they say, I'm doing it like this, and I'm like, right, stop. You need to do it as light as possible. You've got to remember that sometimes, like dry brushing, for instance, your lymphatics are right to the top of your skin. So you need to do it as light as possible across the skin. That's how the lymph is going to move. If you're doing the massage gun, if you're using, I've got some new things that are coming in. If you're using the massage gun, if you're using the instrument assisted tools, which you can buy for yourself, then always using them very lightly on the body is the biggest thing that you can do for yourself. Lipedema is very different to how the body presents itself when it is just cellulite. And actually, coming on to that comes out tomorrow in a post that I've done. I've done another experiment of lipedema and cellulite, because there's so many women who say to me that they want their legs to be smooth. And the truth is, when it comes to lipedema, we can't get that to be mega smooth. We can reduce it. We can get it down to a very, very minimal feeling, but you have got lipedema, and it is an abnormal cell, and it does have a structure to it. Cellulite is very soft, it's squishy, it's very easy to manipulate. So let's go to the tools, the fascia blasters. Fascia blasters. If you're going to use a fascia blaster, get the book, The Cellulite Myth, read it, get it as your Bible, take it in and understand it. When you're using the tools, you use them light and briskly. You don't put the tools into the body where it goes into the muscle. You don't cause any trauma to the skin. You literally let it work. And it is going to take time because it is a journey. It's not a race. I've been blasting since 2017. So it's not like it's something that happens overnight and you get a great big success. You've got to be consistent with these things. The only way you will get those results is through consistency. And that consistency has to not just be in your physical, it needs to be in your mental and your emotional as well. The three go together. Once you've got the three together, you've got the formula that's going to work, that's going to produce the results.
Well said. Somebody had said, you mentioned books. Could you repeat the books that you recommend for this?
My Bible is The Cellulite Myth.
Okay. And put that in chat if you don't mind as well for people who might want to look into that.
Can someone put that in there? Because I can't reach, I'm literally away from everything.
Gotcha.
Oh, someone's
Sorry
done
about
it.
that.
They've done it. They've done it. They've done it. They've done it.
See this? They're amazing out there. Linda Ann, did you want to add something?
Yes, it's just really funny because I started out treating cellulite in 1982 when I opened up my clinic. And my uncle, who was a doctor, used to tease me. And then I transitioned into lipedema, and he said, "Aha, you should have been a doctor." But anyway, I agree with what Kaz is saying. It's so tempting to go so deep. And with the massage gun, I use the soft top for myself and for my clients. And then the instrument assisted can really damage if you go too deep. It can hurt the bone. I had a patient who was really hurt by an occupational therapist who didn't know what the condition really was. And then I don't like the fascia blaster very much. And you said there would be different opinions. I worry about the veins and the capillaries. So if you are going to be using it, I don't know what book it is you have, but that's a really good idea. And then be really cautious and careful. And I don't think you should go over areas where you have capillaries that are very close to the surface of the skin. So that would be my take.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would agree. 100% agree with that. And that's exactly what I explain to people. Obviously, you can't explain to thousands of people across the internet. You're trying your best to give the best advice to everybody at the same time. And I think that's why I'm very hot on trying to say to people, research it, read the captions, research it. We put out what we put out, so we give you an idea of what you can do for yourself. We're not saying to you, do the things that we do. We're giving you the idea of what is out there so that you can follow through and find those things for yourself. And it's all about using your knowledge, using your power, your wisdom to be able to self-heal your own body. And that comes through every single one of us putting out all the information that we do. Everybody's in different groups, everybody's doing different things, but we're all connected. It's the same as like the connective tissue. We're all connected.
And you're talking our language there, Kaz. We appreciate that so much. There is another question. Lori Pelnitz. Lori, we are so glad you're with us tonight. Wants to know from Linda Ann, what is the best way to manage fibrosis for the chair-bound or bed-bound lipolymphedema patient? Good question.
That's a very good question. So you're in a chair, so it's not even the wheelchair. If you can get up, I often teach my patients the stretching exercises and exercises holding onto the chair. So I think you can do that. You can still gua sha, you can use your massage gun. There's still a lot of things that you can do, even in the chair. And then to really stretch in the chair, there's many things to do as well. But of course, it is more challenging.
So like Linda said, like with the massage gun, you said you use the soft piece. I'm assuming the round bit. Whereas I use the crescent with the nodules. That's good. So the crescent with the nodules, I've got Durkheim's, and that really works at breaking up those areas where you've got Durkheim's. I've got Durkheim's around my ribs and around my thighs. And that really works at working those areas and actually breaking them down. And the softer part, I find it does work, but it doesn't manipulate it in, it doesn't manipulate it enough. I don't know if you agree with it, but it doesn't manipulate it enough to break those really heavy lipomas or areas of lipedema that we've got stuck in such traumatized fascia. Because I don't know whether you'll agree that the trauma that is caused to the fascia holding on to the lipedema and the natural fats is actually what's causing the volume problem that we've got with lipedema itself. Because you have to think back to when I was first diagnosed, and I was diagnosed as a stage 3. And I've always had this argument of, how could I have been a stage 3 just lipedema? I wasn't, was I? I clearly was able to manipulate the area of being able to lose the natural fat that was stuck within the traumatized fascia. And I think the fascia is like a cage around the lipedema and the natural fat. And it's that cage that we need to work on to be able to release those two things. Can't get rid of the lipedema unless we take it out, but the natural fat we can reduce. And once we reduce the natural fat and we get rid of the inflammation in the lipedema cells themselves, that's when you see a massive drop in the extremity size and volume size, but not until you work the fascia, which I'm so glad that Linda's doing a presentation on fascia and pain, because yeah, that's why I think a lot of instrument assisted work and fascia work is painful, because of those nerve endings. But like someone like me who's got fibromyalgia, that is attached to your nerve ending. So it's a nerve pain, isn't it? So that's attached within the fascia, within the lipedema, within the natural fat. It's all connected together by this cage that literally surrounds us all the time.
And you mentioned trauma, and that's a very important thing, because it's encaged. Not only the trauma of the tissue, but trauma is stored. Person's trauma is stored in the tissue. And so I'm studying with John Barnes, my fascia release, and that's what he teaches us. And that's what we see all the time. You release the fascia, the trauma comes out. People go, so much release.
I went into, so this year, I'm not going to, like, this year from January to where we are now has been difficult, because I went into somatic training in February after I've had some personal traumas. And in going into somatic training, it brought so much to the surface for me that I had to go into trauma healing myself with an actual therapist, with, I don't know what's going on there, with an actual therapist to help me get rid of some of the issues that I had stored in my body. And over the last 6 weeks, my body has started changing shape again, and very, very fast. And a lot of people are like, what have you done? How have you done this? What's going on? Da, 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 da. It's literally me releasing all of the trauma that has kept me down for years and years and years. And there are even things that I haven't even spoken about to the public, that I have kept buried, because I'm not even ready to bring them up and talk about them yet. So there's so much more that needs to come. And I think that goes for all of us. Like, there's trauma that starts the process. I was in a radio interview last week, and I was talking to the lady, and I said to her, for me, it starts with an event. The event causes the trauma. It causes your hormones, your stress to get out of control, your cortisol to become out of control. And that's when the illness manifests itself in the body. And it's working through those processes.
The old trauma, last year my talk was called The Issues in the Tissues. And so when you're doing all that fascia work that you're showing everybody all the time, you're actually healing your body on so many levels, because we have to heal mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all together. And lipedema, we need all that with lipedema and DOCMs.
100%.
And we are, it seems like, Kaz, we could have literally just done a whole hour with you, and we are
Yeah.
so grateful that you are with us tonight. We thank you for the light and the wisdom and the insights that you bring. I'm going to try and get to as much as I can in the last 6 or so minutes here. Angelique, you had sort of put your hand up when we were talking about fascia. No, you're good. Patty, are you good? Was there something that you wanted to jump in about, or has that ship sailed?
The people who are bedbound or are within a chair.
Yes.
I've been working, the Sue Hitzman course that I took was a hand and foot course. And I will tell you that it is, there are soft little balls and there are harder balls, and you start with the soft ones. And just by working your hands and your feet, it goes up your limbs. It goes to your elbows and your armpits. Like I was having like a blockage under my armpits, and just by working my hands on these tools, that blockage softened. So, I mean, they travel. There are things you can do, and that's all just fascia work. That's just easing, you know, you walk on your feet. It's such a big deal to, and I know, Kaz, you do reflexology, and that's all the same. That's all tied in there to release that. And it just does more than just your feet.
Thank you for sharing that. That is so important. You always say, if you can't do everything, do something. What is your phrase, Patty? Your famous phrase?
All or something.
All or something. We never want any one of you to feel overwhelmed by all the ideas that come up in the roundtable. Even if there's one nugget that you can take with you and implement in your life to make it better, that's what we're all about. And if you feel overwhelmed, flush everything else that's just not resonating or landing. We care about you and how you're feeling as you take in all this information too. Most of all, we want you to not feel alone. I'm going to do a few quick questions here. Susie Levy or Levy, I hope I said it right. Does anybody have a background with shockwave and how safe it is? Shockwave? Anybody?
Well, I haven't used it, but it's shockwave corporal treatment. And Karen Ashworth did a small study with that with 5 patients. And at the Lipedema World Alliance in Potsdam in October, there was Dr. Michelini's daughter. She's also Dr. Michelini. She presented on that and had pretty good results.
I've had it done.
Oh, you have?
And
I've had it done, yeah, on my hips. So where my hips were locked, and with the hypermobility, it was to do with the fascia again. And I've had shockwave onto both hips to release the fascia, and it did work. It did
excellent.
work.
Okay, good information. We're hearing from a lot of people. Wow, this is a lot. Thank you. I know we didn't get to all the questions, but I want to give everybody a chance to give some parting thoughts. Clearly, next month, we are going to debrief from some of the amazing sessions that we'll be listening to at the Fat Disorders Resource Society Conference. Sorry, we said FDRS from the very start, and some of you were wondering, what the heck is that? The Fat Disorders Resource Society Conference. That's where many of us are gathered right now. But let's go around the table here and final words to encourage the audience. And Kaz, we're just going to have you back because you were amazing. Kaz, what would you like to leave the audience with?
Oh, spot.
I know it's a tough one, right?
Yeah. Don't always listen to everybody else. Listen to yourself. Go within. Listen to what goes on inside. Not everybody else is you. You're never going to be able to understand anybody else's genetics to your genetics. Do what's right for you. Listen to your intuition and do what's right for you.
Brilliant point. Love it. Jenny Bogine.
So I just had my 65th birthday, we might add, and I took a little holiday from treatments. I took a little holiday from food. So I've just had a couple painful days getting back on track, but I would do it again because I really believe in life is moderation. But my takeaway, I didn't sit in on the lymphedema roundtable last week, but I heard one of the snippets that Lympha Press has posted from Angela Jones.
Jones.
And she had a great dialogue going about you know, don't let lipedema be everything. Remember, there's all of you. And she said, just get outside of yourself. Don't let the illness consume you.
I love
And
that
I just
quote.
love that.
Angela Jones is amazing. I'm so glad you noted that, Jenny. That's beautiful. Angelique, what would you like to say?
Whether you are here in St. Louis this weekend, or in the watch party on the East Coast, or whether you are watching online to FDRS or just now heard about FDRS, know that you are not alone in this journey. We are doing this journey together, and no matter what you are doing for yourself, know that you're doing something for yourself, even by just tuning in tonight. So you don't have to come to FDRS to be part of our community. And you don't even have to tune into our roundtable to be part of our community. But just because you are here, you are loved and you are appreciated. And don't forget that.
Good words, Angelique. You always bring it. Susie Boshoff.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I wanted to say is obviously this community is everything. This is my mental health injection on a regular basis, and having that support and knowing you're not alone. And on social media, finding people that resonate with you, that you can follow, that are going towards solutions and are sharing them are a really big deal. Obviously, Kaz is literally one of my favorite accounts. I've been following her journey for so long. And, you know, I got my massage gun, and then she has pinned little videos, and I like that she's like, start gentle, and she's not like, it's so, you just got to find your tribe, and then just know that your tribe is there. And if you find yourself in a room where people are gloomy, move on to a room where people are happy.
Yes, yes. And speaking of accounts that you want to follow, Patty Cornute, Lipedema Fitness, what would you leave our audience with tonight?
It can be overwhelming. There are so many things, especially when you're just learning, and it's okay to take a breath and to put it down and come back to it. And it's not your fault if something you try doesn't work for you.
So well said. Linda Anne Kahn.
Well, I want to just keep it very simple, because lately I've really been thinking about being mindful of everything beautiful around you. There's so much chaos going on in our lives and the world around, but tune in on the beautiful things. I was able to look at the partial eclipse the other day. That is beautiful. That is nature. That is wonderful. Watch the sunset and just be mindful of who you are and be grateful for the things around you that are worth really being grateful for. So that's
like that so much. I love how we end these shows, because I always get my tank filled up. Go ahead, PGP. Give it to us.
So I would say, just because this condition requires extra, like a wheelchair assist or a plane seat or the need to sit down as you're traveling somewhere, doesn't mean that you don't deserve those tools and don't deserve to still take the trips and live the life. Like, it's not a death sentence. It's not, it doesn't have to be the end of life.
Reading chat is almost as inspiring as listening to all of you. And I want to read what Patricia Broderick wrote in chat as we close. Yes, live your beautiful life. Wear that bathing suit. I love all the chat about where to get a good bathing suit. Live your beautiful life. That's what we want for you here at this roundtable. I know that's what Lympha Press wants as the sponsor of this roundtable. It's been a privilege to share the evening with you. A privilege to have you with us, Kaz, at Kaz Talk.
I've loved being with you all. Thank you so much.
It was another special night. Thank you all. And for anybody here in St. Louis, I'll meet you in the lobby. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.